Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Carrie Roldan Show, where we spend 30 minutes or so per week having conversations that matter to the entrepreneur's body, mind, and business. I'm your host, Carrie Roldan, and I'm a wife, a mother, a runner, a best-selling author, a personal growth junkie, and your teammate on the entrepreneurial journey. And I've been at this whole entrepreneur thing for a while, and I've learned that it really is a team sport. So if you're ready for a teammate on the entrepreneurial journey, then let's talk. You can head on over to carrieroldan.com/apply, and I'll schedule a free clarity call with you where we'll have a look at what's currently going on in your life and business, where you may be out of alignment, and what you need to do to get back in. Okay, so I created the Carrie Roldan Show because I have stumbled and continue to on my entrepreneurial journey, because the road to success thus far has been full of potholes, detours, and dead ends. Not to mention self-doubt, fear, worry, debt, marital tension, personal struggle, and probably a lot of other crap too. And I wanted to share what I continue to learn on the journey in the hopes that it will help you guys too. Because online entrepreneurhood is a lonely place, or it can be. And I'm on a mission to help us connect to each other and to the resources that we need to thrive in our business. Which is why I am so excited to connect you today to my friend from high school, actually, and colleague and cohort on this entrepreneurial journey, Marie Walti. So our topic today is finding beauty in the ashes, how your story reveals purpose. And Marie and I are going to go deeply into that, but I want to let you know that Marie and I were friends in high school, and then, didn't see each other we're not on each other's radar for 20 years. And it was her story that got me. I found her on Facebook, or she found me on Facebook, but it was her post about her story that got me interested in what she was doing in her business, which is just this huge reminder, right? People don't buy what you sell, they buy who you are. But let me give you a little background on Marie, and then I'll finally bring her on because she's sitting here waiting patiently. So my guest today is Marie Walti, and why? This is her story in a nutshell. Why would a highly educated corporate woman leave a successful accounting career and start all over? One word: time. Time is the one commodity that you can lose but never get back. And she decided she wanted to find a way to design life on her terms, around her priorities, and around her values. So just show of hands, people watching, how many of us started our businesses for the exact same reasons? But in the midst of 3 significant life losses, Marie decided that she would no longer live life for someday. She was tired of being tired and allowing someone else to dictate her time schedule. She was determined to find a solution that would allow her to spend her time doing the things that mattered to her while still earning a flexible and respectable income. The answer for Marie's search came in partnering with the dermatological team of Rodan and Fields. The turnkey nature, having trouble talking today, turnkey nature of the business fit right into her personal mission of wanting to inspire people to value and make the most of their own time. She loves that she gets to lead people down the path of creating options for themselves and redefining their story. But really, ultimately, Marie is on a mission to inspire a community of people to enjoy today, dream big for tomorrow, and have an impactful and enduring legacy. So I'm going to put her on the screen right now, but you guys all, to connect more with Marie, to find out what she's up to, find her on Facebook and friend her or like her, or do what you need to do. It's facebook.com/Marie Kavanaugh Walti, and I will put that link somewhere near this video. So Marie, I've talked about you for quite some time. Go ahead and say hello, my friend.
Hello, all.
I'm so glad to have you here. I was telling you before, you look beautiful, radiant, glowing. You are the picture of a Rodan and Fields rep. Oh, you're welcome. But I wanted to actually start by, could you let us know, I've just sort of given the background that you were an accountant, that you had these 3 significant losses that really caused you to value your time in a different way. But can you give us your story
your personal account of that story.
Sure. I was working in corporate accounting in the oil and gas industry 20 years into my career, and was pretty unsatisfied, but, had worked really hard to climb the ladder, was making great money, and just thought, this is the way life is, this is what success is. And this is, I was earning the income, able to, afford some luxuries in life, but I just felt like, dissatisfaction was just the way that it was going to be. And then life has a way of being the greatest teacher of all. And in the course of a year's time, 3 significant people in my close circle were gone. Two of my sisters became widowed. Both of their husbands were diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And, each were gone within a year's time. And then a good friend of mine had a sudden heart attack. And for me, that made me reevaluate life. And I, was down in the dumps, in a pool of tears, and made a decision that there had to be something good that would come out of this story. That it, in fact, could be a story of hope if I let it. And so I wanted to step into that. I didn't want that to be, that cancer would define our family, but that our family could be used for a greater purpose and legacy. So I kind of stepped into that arena. I actually quit my job, which, if you know anything about accountants, we are not people of risk. But I just felt the risk of being unhappy was greater than stepping away from this career, that I would figure it out. I was a pretty bright girl. I went to Berkeley. And so with the blessing of my husband, I walked away from my job. And actually the timing would have it that I quit my job before we knew exactly what was wrong with my second brother-in-law. And I became available to kind of bring hope into their story. So, I have a business background, and when we discovered what was wrong with my brother-in-law, Brian, I was able to run their busy restaurant. And actually that gave me just a ton of purpose. The fact that, I was available to do something as significant as carry their burden, because they were fairly focused on his health journey. And the fact that I had something to give in the midst of that and remove some worry and anxiety was just a big blessing to me, that I was available as a gift in that way. And so in that arena, as I was helping run their business, I was kind of looking for the next phase for my family and what my career path was going to look like. And I needed it to be flexible, because I needed to be able to do that around my sister's restaurant, which, anything about restaurants, it's like a slave trade. You are pretty much attached 24/7. And I also, was committed to being the mom that I never was, because my kids were the first to be dropped off and last to be picked up when I was a corporate woman, and that was not the life I was going to lead. Watching 2 brother-in-laws suffer through cancer, I wanted to be all in life. That was kind of the goal, and I wanted to be the mom that was there at pickup, and I wanted to have the option to enroll in soccer and just fully engage life. Like, that was the new perspective that was gained out of that story was, you get one shot at life. One, you don't get a do-over, and you don't have any guarantees of what tomorrow is going to look like. So you better do it today. And so, that was kind of my search for what is the next phase. I need it to be flexible. And the goal is to do it around my priorities. And my priorities at the time was serving my sister by carrying the restaurant and, being a present wife and mom. So that's kind of where it all started.
So first of all, you did a beautiful job of telling that story in a brief amount of time, because I've heard the lengthier version just in your and my conversations. And those 3 significant losses, I mean, significant gut-wrenching, like tear your soul out losses. And what I find is interesting is that so many times, right, like the topic for the show is finding the beauty in the ashes, right, is at a time of significant loss, or, you know, your life getting turned upside down, is when you're faced with the question of, are you actually living your priorities? Like, we all say we have certain priorities, right? And I'm sure when you were corporate, you were saying, you know, my kids, they're my priority. And yet they were the first ones at daycare and the last ones to be picked up. And speed bumps in our journey often cause us to reevaluate our priorities. And I guess I'm just saying that for anybody out there who's wondering if they have a story, or like, well, no one significant has died in my family yet, and I don't really want that to reveal, is the idea of your priorities. And then the other thing I wanted to say to you, Marie, is that while you were talking, this word came up for me, and that is courage. Like, that I feel like, even though when you tell the story, it sounds like, well, of course that was the next thing that you did. Of course you had to quit your job because, you know, you realized it wasn't with your priorities. Just how big of a courageous act that was. So I'm wondering if you hear that a lot, and if you have any comments on that.
I do hear that a lot. In the moment, I didn't really think about it. It didn't feel like a courageous act. It felt like a no-brainer, because it's like I had been asleep and now I was awake. You know, I saw life in from a whole different vantage point. So it wasn't a matter of putting something on and being courageous and stepping in. It wasn't a thoughtful act. It was just kind of a charge forward. This is what I have to do. I'm touched, you know, because I get the blessing of speaking a lot, which is outside of my comfort zone. Not what I ever saw myself doing, which I know you're a personal growth junkie, so I know you can appreciate that. I didn't see myself as capable of these things that now I get to go out and inspire people. So, you know, I get to do that. Before, I would look at it as this limiting thing, like I'm not good at that. So I'm never going to get up and speak in front of people. And now I see, you know, how invaluable that is, that I get to stand up in front of people and share a story and hopefully awaken them to a different reality. There are options out there. I was dissatisfied. It shouldn't have taken those losses for me to say, my kids deserve me, and I deserve to live life on my terms. I deserve to set my schedule. I'm capable of doing that. What are my options? Let me explore that. But I was too fearful of, oh, I got to give up an income, and oh, my identity. I went to Berkeley, and people are going to say, you know, why would you scrap that? You've worked so hard. And, you know, people may see courage in it. I almost see it was a blessing that I didn't have time to think and have fear limit me, that I got to charge for it. But I feel blessed that I get to share this story and hopefully awaken people before life happens. Hopefully life doesn't happen in the same way that it did to my family. I'm able to find beauty and purpose in it. I'm able to find my calling through it. I have compassion that I would never have for people had I not walked that road. But I'm hopeful that by sharing my story, it might awaken people to, there are options. And if you're discontent with where you're at, I'm telling you, live. I'm telling you, don't sit there. Don't wait for something to happen. Live today. Find a way. Anyone is capable. And you deserve to enjoy every ounce that this life has to offer. Do it. That's kind of my message to people, is live life, you know, and believe in yourself and go for it and have dreams. Don't limit yourself. So, you know, if they see an ounce of courage and that inspires them to be courageous, then I think that's incredible. I mean, the truth of the matter was, I didn't feel courageous in the moment. I was just running as fast as I could. And now looking back, having been gifted the opportunity with serving my sister in a way, like I had to live my value. You know, I've always, as a Christian, you know, you say what you believe, but then you know, the opportunity is right in front of me. What are you going to do? Are you going to do it? And so I got the opportunity to live my value, to serve my sister in a way that no one else got, no one else had the skill set. And so timing presented itself. And so that bond that I have with my sister is a blessing. All these things that came as a result of yesterday being Mother's Day. So my nephew, who lost his dad, they used to deliver donuts on Mother's Day to mothers that they appreciated. I got a box of donuts on my doorstep yesterday with a note from my nephew. And I was a mother before when they did that, but I never got a box of donuts. But I got a box of donuts yesterday, with a note saying, I want to keep doing this on behalf of my dad, and you mattered to me. And so that to me is the bigger story is I want to leave a legacy. I want to impact lives. I want to impact not just my immediate family, but I want to go out and do something that matters across the board to people I don't know, And so for me, having time and resources to do that, that's the bigger story. That's what was gained through the path. And I hope that I just get to inspire people to make that choice in advance of something happening.
And you do. And that's why I invited you to be on my show today, is because I had seen your Rodan and Fields things pop up in my news feed for months, right? Like I'd seen this and that. I saw a tanning cream. I saw before and afters of and it was cool. That's what Marie's doing. And the first thing that I want to say is I already knew you to be intelligent and articulate. I already respected you from when I knew you in high school. I knew that you were a person of character. But it wasn't until you wrote a post, much like the story that you just said, right, about the donuts, right? It was a post from your heart. It was a picture of your sister, or I think it was a picture of actually your brother-in-law and maybe you. This is my dog barking. So
that's okay.
The mailman's been here already, so I don't know what she's barking at. But that touched my heart in a way that I reached out and was like, hey, by the way, I think you're amazing. And by the way, I know you're selling Rodan and Fields. Tell me about it, right? It was organic. There was no sales on your part as much as it was just sharing yourself and attracting me to you. And then when we connected, you told me more of your story, and I just remember crying with you and crying for you and being so drawn to who you are, like you're saying, living your value. And what my terminology for that is you behaving like the person you want to become. See your husband in the background.
Yep, there he is, the man. The man, the myth, the legend. You're on a show, honey.
He's awesome. We were talking earlier. At least when I'm talking, he's not on the screen, Marie. But before the show, we were talking, and she's like, "My husband's just getting home." I said, "Well, as long as he doesn't walk by naked, we're good." So I'm glad to see him fully dressed and looking quite professional, actually.
He is. Irvine Company.
All right, I'm signing off.
Bye, honey.
But it's behave like the person that you want to become. And I think for a lot of people, that is courageous. And it is living your story means living your story. And just because a certain part of your story was, I'm a straight A student, I went to UC Berkeley, I'm an awesome accountant, I help companies in this way, doesn't mean that that's your whole story. Because now, right, hindsight, you can see how that totally prepared you for the divine, the totality of the divine story that was taking place. You came as an accountant to your sister's business who just happened
to need one.
Need those particular skills at that exact moment in time. But I guess, you've done a really great job of encouraging people in that, but do you have anything to say to anybody who feels listen, I don't want people to have to die in my life for me to have a story, but I'm feeling stuck. I don't like my current circumstances, but I am kind of afraid because this is who I am. Do you have any advice for those people?
I think it's so important who you surround yourself by. I jumped in. I had no idea I didn't have my path charted out. I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, for me, this particular community of people through Rodan and Fields was a blessing. And a lot of it had to do with people's values and what they wanted out of life, people being big thinkers and dreamers and visionaries. And so it inspired me to think bigger. I mean, I did it because I needed income. Truth of the matter, you know, being a volunteer, running a restaurant for your sister whose husband is very ill doesn't pay the bills. So I needed to find an option. But what I didn't expect, or, you know, normally I do my due diligence, but I felt like this feels like a right fit. Everything adds up. It's in alignment to who I am, just the company vision, and okay, I'm going to do this thing. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm going to do this thing. And what I've learned, you know, life being the greatest teacher, but surrounding yourself by people who do think bigger and dream bigger. Carrie, you're one of them. You've got, you know, you want more out of life. I think when you surround yourself by people that speak into that, you go for more. You are willing to take those risks. You don't necessarily need a big story, but if you're surrounded by people that want something different out of life, I think you're more apt to go for it. I mean, so I started out on a small level, like I want to help my sister, I want to pay my bills, and it's evolved to I want to have vision to change the world. And I'm capable of doing that. And I want to link arms with people who have that same vision. And they may have it, you know, their vision may be in a different capacity, but when you're surrounded by people that think like that, and you start seeing them do it, then you start doing it, then you start living that, you know, and you start creating ripples, and you almost, for me, it's become a bit of an addiction. Like, no, this is the way we're designed to live. Not just in our little houses and boxes and what's comfortable and safe, but we're really meant to do more. I mean, in the midst of loss, you know, money doesn't have the same value as it once did. Money is, you know, for me, it's about soul wealth. That's what I kind of term what I desire out of life, is this wealth that wells up in your soul. And some of it is most of it's very intangible. It's for me, it's relational. It's experiences, it's impact, it's legacy, it's just something that you can't kind of fully fit. It's not about money in the bank and about all these fancy things for yourself, because, you know, watching people leave this earth, they didn't get to take any of it with them. That's not what mattered at the end. It was who surrounded their bed, who held their hand, who, you know, read stories to them. You know, it's just about, I mean, my nephew, take a page from him, dropping donuts on a doorstep, you know, to let someone know that they mattered and that they're making a difference. So I hope that answered the question. I think surrounding yourself by people who are bigger visioned, I think will cause you to think about your vision. And it doesn't have to be driven by a storyline. You write your story. That's what I want people to understand, is that's the decision I had to make. Was that my story? To, you know, cancer, deaths, and a heart attack in my close circle. Was that my story? That wasn't my story. My story was hope. My story was purpose. And so it was rewriting the storyline. And that's why I love what I get to do, because I feel like I get to empower people to change their story. Instead of accepting their circumstance, they can rewrite their story. And so anyone's capable of doing that. It's work. You know, it's not something that you can get up and just, you know, imagine in your head. You got to get up, and if you want something different, you got to live something different, and you got to step in, and you got to believe in yourself and believe in the vision that you're casting. And so anyone can do it.
I love that you said that anyone can do it. And
anyone.
Yeah, like, and I think that so many of us look at where we are, right? And then we look at, like, because you're involved in a network marketing company, I'm going to use this as an example. I've been involved in network marketing companies in the past, and, like, been at a big event, you know, and I'm there and I'm nervous and I'm just worried about, like, you know, who am I going to talk to about this, or how, you know, like the very beginning stages, right, of a business where it's like, I just need to make a couple $100 this month.
Right.
And and then watching the person on stage talk about, you know, their millions of dollars and the impact that they're making, and their team, and the amazing things that team is doing. And it's easy to sit there where you are and think, I can't get there from here, right? Like, it's just too far. Or honestly, to be judgmental and say, well, that's easy for her to say because she's inspiring millions. But you forget, right? Once you decide to make that your story, once you decide to make hope your story instead of how do I make a couple $100 extra, right? Then you're there. Then you're there already. Then you are inspiring, and that ripple effect that you're talking about. So everybody watching, I guess the point of this, we titled this show Finding Beauty in the Ashes, is because at every moment of your story, you have an opportunity to view it through the lens of like, well, I guess this is all there is, or where's the blessing in this? Where's the gift in this situation? And sometimes the gift is really easy to find, right? Because the situation feels amazing. And other times, less so. You know, I was telling Marie before we started this, recently a really good friend of mine, her father died suddenly. And it is a time of turmoil and upheaval. But I was saying, like, you know, she's in it right now. She's in the storm. She can't actually see what the gift is just yet. But her story is hope, right? Her story is her whole story is transformation. And so she knows, through this, I will be transformed. Through this, I will help transform others. And because she's decided that is her story, that this current situation, this tragic loss, will lead to transformation in her life and the lives of a lot of other people. So I guess that's the message for today's show, you guys, is whatever your story, even if you think it is boring and lame, even if you think you're like, no offense, Marie, you're Marie in her cubicle, in her pencil skirt and heels, in her cubicle, like, you know, typing away. I picture her like with pencils in her and on like one of those old school adding machines. I'm sure this isn't accurate, but just bear with me.
It's a good visual, though. It's a good visual.
Yes, it is a good visual. And miserable, right? Sure, that was her story for a minute. Like, but that's not who she was. That wasn't her value. That wasn't who she wanted to be. And life handed her an opportunity to transform it. Life probably handed her several opportunities to transform it before it finally. In fact, is that true, Marie? Did you have whisperings before you had the massive tragedy?
I did. I would drive to work. I'm a person of faith, so, you know, that connection is pretty significant in my life. And I would drive to work, and, you know, in my dissatisfaction, I would utter prayers. Do you want me here? Do you want me somewhere else? I don't love this. But if you have something there, because I'm big into mentorship and pouring out, and if there are people there, whatever the purpose is, whatever the calling is, I'm willing. And truth being known, it really was probably a tough conversation from my sister Judy that kind of planted a seed. So sorry that there's a lot of players in my story, but my sister Teresa is the first sister whose husband got ill. Her husband Michael was diagnosed with glioblastoma. And my sister Judy, which then the story would change, right? She would come into that similar storyline. But at the time when she had this conversation with all the sisters, work was always an excuse for me. I was tired, you know, I was trying to be a working mom, and that required a lot of me. So sometimes I'd be like, I can't, I'm working, which was true, you know, but sometimes you have to dig deep. And so when Michael was fairly sick, and I was working insane hours. I was, you know, my kids were first to be dropped off, last to be picked up, get them home, feed them, bathe them, get them in bed so I can work again. I mean, that's what it looked like. I could never catch up. And because I was, you know, that was the requirement. It was this time for money thing. And my sister said to all the sisters, and it's ironic because she had no idea what was coming in her direction, But she said, and she's entrepreneurial. They owned a restaurant. So they've lived a flexible lifestyle. When Michael was sick, they would deliver meals to the door. That's who they are. And she said, you guys are letting life pass you by. Like, life's going to happen. And your excuse was work or whatever it was. You need to take time off work. You need to do something. Like, you can't get this time back. And that tough conversation was like, yeah, she's right. I can't get it back. Do I want to live like this? Is this what I want to stand for? Like, I just work too much. That's what I do. And so she planted a seed. So when Brian started getting sick, my friend had a heart attack. When all that happened and all that collided, it was this, I don't want to live like this. I don't want work to be the centerpiece to my life and be my excuse because I'm too tired and I don't have any more in me. I want my priorities to be my priorities. And so it was really like those inclinations were there. I mean, I would utter them on the way to work. Tough conversation to really make me stare at myself in the mirror and say, no, I want to stand for something different. And if it comes at the sacrifice of money, then it does. That's more important, you know, because you can't get the time back. And I appreciate her for saying hard stuff because I needed someone to like shake me and make a different decision.
Well, and sometimes I appreciate your sister for that, right? Because she shook you into a place where she held up the mirror for you, which then got you in a place where you had to evaluate what your priorities really were, which then got you to the place where you took the leap of faith. And I think that's the thing to remember about our stories is when you feel the urge, when you feel the nudge, just like when you talked about Rodan and Fields, you said, normally I would do a ton of research, but you just felt the nudge and you jumped. And I think that's so important, right? Is we get to ask whatever you call this higher power, God, source energy, like whatever name you give it, we ask and it answers. And it's not our job to figure out the how, right? That's its job. Like, it's just our job to sort of do what we feel. We hear the whispers, we feel the nudges. Sometimes we get what maybe would be called a divine download, but whatever it is, like, we feel that and we act. And as we act, the next step appears. I think I've given this analogy before on the show, but the idea of like, you step off a cliff and the earth just rises up to meet you, you know, like it's that. And that's what I love about your story is you didn't know at the time, right? Maybe you figured it out early in your journey with Rodan and Fields, but that, hey, with this company, I have an opportunity to far exceed what I would have made, what I could have made working those crazy hours at my high paying job. And like you had to give up money, only to realize, oh, there's an opportunity for so much more abundance. And we need to wrap this up, but I just love you so much. And I want to, because you shared this with me about a year ago, and you said, listen, now money has a whole new meaning for me. And I just want to live to give. So could you just tell briefly about that journey?
Yeah, and you nailed it in just kind of spelling out the progression. You nailed it. I didn't know, and I stepped into something that was so much greater, but it did take, acts of faith to step in. And then you do see this abundance, like, oh, I had to give up something, but to step into something greater, purpose, this abundance, and this changing of heart, right? Yeah, I mean, for me, the value of money has changed so much. It's not about securing my little piece in life. Although I like to be safe and secure, but I really have this desire for legacy and impact, not just with my being, but as a family. Like, I want to model that to my children. I want them to understand that $20 in their hand and what they can buy to give themselves a temporary hit, what that could do for someone else's household is life-changing. Like, I want them to view money in those terms. And so I want them to understand soul wealth. Look, when we know we can change someone's life, and we can give more. I mean, that's why I work hard, is so that I can give more, because what it does to me and what I feel like, I mean, I got a box of donuts, and that, like, I mean, this my nephew feels like my aunt went to bat for my mom and went to bat for me. And, you know, and that means the world. You know, and what I hold, it's not a box of donuts, you know, like, I'm not even a fan of Krispy Kremes, to be honest, but it's the feelings, you know, it's what that did for my soul, knowing that he feels safe and secure. And so I do, like, I want to raise a lot of resources so I can change my immediate community, a broader community, and keep creating ripples. And I want to link arms with people who have that same desire to change the world around them. I mean, I think sometimes we feel powerless, but there is so much that we can do with time and with resources. So that abundance, you know, the thought that I can use that to change people's lives is fulfilling. I mean, that, what I was lacking in corporate America, because I was just grinding through that wheel every day, and I may have collected a great paycheck, which maybe provides for my retirement and puts my kids through college. That's not what life's about. The fact that we can impact worlds beyond ours and still have those things just don't have the same value or weight as they once did. You know, I'm doing a job that someone doesn't have to go to college to do. You know, they can take the same thing, it's an equal playing field, and they can go create a business out of it. And so, you know, the fact that we can go impact the world, I think, is so significant. And I'm watching people that I get to do business with that are funding orphanages and bringing clean water to countries and doing really big and impactful things. And that's what I want my life and legacy to stand for. I don't want to be Marie the accountant that logged, 14-hour days, had a lot of money in the bank. I want that money to be poured out and to make differences in life. So that's what fuels me every day and gets me excited.
I love it, Marie. I could talk to you for like hours and hours and hours. I'm so glad that we actually just had this opportunity to have a conversation that matters on air for my tribe. I hope that you guys will reach out and connect with Marie. I know she's touched your soul already, just through this interview. She truly is an amazing human, and just one of the good ones. Like I know everybody I introduce you guys to, I do my best to make sure that they are people of integrity and people who stand in alignment and people who are doing their best to behave like the people they want to become. And from the time that I reconnected with Marie, which was a little over a year ago now, I have just felt that from her in every interaction. Marie, I think the world of you. I think you're the greatest. And let's just point out that Marie and I are both over 40.
Woohoo!
Yes, and using Rodan and Fields products, and don't we look fabulous? So, yeah, so if you've connected with Marie's story, and you could use a few less wrinkles, and you could reach out to her either way. But you know what? That's what got me to reach out to her. Like, I didn't think that I didn't really care too much about what was going on here. But I resonated with Marie's story, and I reached out and basically said, how can I help you build your business? And she's like, well, how do you build skincare? And tried the products and loved them. And here's what I found so interesting is in becoming a Rodan and Fields customer even, it was an investment in my self-care. It became part of my self-care ritual. Like, it was this whole thing about nurturing myself and valuing myself that I didn't realize. Like, I thought I was helping Marie by buying some stuff from her. I didn't realize it was turning into this whole other thing. And also, if you feel that call of your soul to leave what you're doing, to find your purpose, to figure out a business where you can, there's like a huge airplane going over. I don't know if you can hear it right now, but find a business where you can live life on your terms and that you can bring the value back to your time, and you can build it as big or as small as you'd like it. you guys, network marketing is a great way to go. And Rodan and Fields, maybe you could talk about that actually, because you know more about the company than I do, but I know they're like a leader. So you want to share quickly about that before we go?
Sure. And my bigger message to anyone is just find something that makes you happy. Life's too short not to. So it doesn't have to be Rodan and Fields, but I just want to encourage people to go after your dreams, to, you know, not live short of that. Value your time. I think that's the one thing that breaks my heart is I think people don't value their time. And so they trade it, you know, for money, or they give it to someone else. And so that's kind of my bigger message. But in terms of Rodan and Fields, I mean, they're a leader in skincare. We're just going global with the product. These are, you know, these women are 2 of the top 10 women entrepreneurs of the decade, with the likes of Oprah Winfrey and Tory Burch. So they've done fairly well for themselves. But what I appreciate, you know, in what they've done is, you know, they could have hung up their coats, gone and sipped some fruity drinks on the beach, but they're driven. And I think what they gain from putting this opportunity out there is they're giving women the same opportunities that they've created for themselves. Men and women, I shouldn't short men in this conversation. They just want to see people rise up and live life like they've done. And I appreciate that. And, you know, one of the top executives said at our last convention, you know, we're a company that values passion and purpose over power and position. And they live that out in how, you know, they give a portion of their sales to help inner city kids. And they encourage consultants, find your purpose. Find your passion. This is a vehicle. This is not the end all be all. Your end all be all is your passion and your purpose. And that's why I think we see so many people in the company using this as an avenue to do something that resonates with their heart. And that's what's more exciting is all these stories. And when I think about those 2 doctors who put this out there, their names being stamped on orphanages and bringing clean water, and, you know, a family that, you know, is trying to care for disabled children. So they've just opened a ranch, you know, to give jobs to mentally challenged kids. And so that to me is what's exciting. That's purpose and passion. And I think when you go in with that heart, that's where success lies, right? Because like you said, it's not about the $500 a month or what you need to make. It's about your bigger goal. And when people see that, they're more inspired. They want to follow. But the reason it works is because their skincare is so good, and everything's clinically tested and proven. And, you know, what they're doing, you know, we just hit $1 billion in sales 10 years in to this channel. And the strategic business plan in the next 5 years will blow your mind, you know, what's expected internationally. And so the fact that from my cell phone, I can grow an international business is crazy. And I mean, again, it boils down to changing stories. And so the fact that I get to link arms with people and I know each one of their stories, you know, we happen to sell skincare because it's sellable. It's a sellable commodity that people like the way that it changes their skin. But it's really about stories. So the fact that I get to take people who are like me, like, can I do this? Am I really capable? And to see them rise and create a life that they love and start figuring out what their legacy will be is really what's more exciting than the fact that I happen to have a website and people buy skincare from me. So, Carrie, I love you. Can I end with a little affirmation to you? I'm grateful that you watched my story and that you took the time to connect, because you're a connector and you bring out the best in people. I know all of your friends and colleagues would say the exact same thing, that you draw that out in people. And so I'm grateful that you've given me this platform to share my story and hopefully to give people hope, you know, in the midst of hopeless situations, or inspire people to want more and better out of life, because life can be all too short. So I'm just grateful for the reconnection and just you and who you are, all your gifts and talents. And so thank you for blessing me. I can't hear you.
because I was muted.
Okay.
And Marie, thank you so much. Like, thank you. This is one of those moments, like, you have no idea how much I actually needed to hear that on this day. So thank you. And
you're welcome.
just thank you, everybody, for watching. I know that today's Carrie Roldan show is slightly different than a lot of the ones that we've done, right? It's the point here is to touch your heart and inspire you to action, whatever action that needs to be, and inspire you to be an active participant in your story. And you get to decide the theme. You get to decide that, like, what is the theme for your story? Are you going to live a story of tragedy, or are you going to live a story of hope? You get to pick. And once you pick, that will play out for you. So my personal story is one of encouraging and inspiring and lifting people up. And exactly what you were talking about, Marie, is finding purpose and continuing to grow and become the person that I want to be. And when you were sharing your story, Marie, I was thinking about it's one thing to behave like the person that you want to become, but it's super motivating to recognize I need to behave like the person I want my children to become. Like, and that can change everything. So we have to go. We've been talking for way too long. You guys, thank you for watching. Check Marie out over on Facebook. I will put the link, but I'm just going to look at my computer. Marie Walti. It's hyphenated, I think, on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put the link. But find her. She's amazing. Get in her tribe. And if you are so inclined, send her a private message and ask about Rodan and Fields, because they are amazing products. It's an amazing company. I'm so glad you found it, Marie. I'm so glad it found you, because you are changing lives because of it. So thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Here's a great big virtual hug from me. And I will see you all on the next episode of the Carrie Roldan Show.
Bye, girl.